Jack Smith?
He was a great filmmaker who changed everything.
He's an artist's artist.
No one really owns anything. We are all temporary here, and so are all the things that we covet and preserve. We are all renters, ultimately. All we do or accomplish will be eventual dust as well. Why does anything matter? In spite of this acknowledgement of the imminent, we all just keep going. Why do we do that? Why do we persist, even when we are 100% sure how it will end? The paradox of value lies here. Nothing would even mean anything were it not fleeting, temporary, momentary. Life and our pursuits seem to be something we should do at full steam, whether anyone is watching or not. The things we are most passionate about, possessed by, it should be a tier on the hierarchy of needs.
Quite a sight. Yeah.
This is how creative work is for me, and I think most artists. Music, filmmaking, whatever I'm doing, whether anyone notices or appreciates what I create or not, I just keep going. I have to do it. If I don't, I feel like I'll disappear.
Guntersville traffic, Archer 2123 Kilo is left base for 25 Guntersville.
The wildness of possibility, that feeling you had when you were young, it surpassed the practicalities of why or how or any considerations of viability, economic prospects. None of it mattered. It was the act, the temporal joy, the play, the feeling. I often think of when abstract expressionist painter Mark Rothko spoke to this sentiment and time. He said, "When I was a younger man, art was a lonely thing. No galleries, no collectors, no critics, no money. Yet it was a golden age, for we all had nothing to lose and a vision to gain." People have often said to me, "Does it bother you that not a lot of people see what you're making?" The truth is, it doesn't matter. The compulsion to codify my thoughts and observations and make them into something that can be experienced or felt is involuntary. It will happen whether anyone cares or not. The only part that bothers me, I think, about so few people seeing what I make is that it means that the system in which I'm syndicating or using is so shallow in its consideration. It's so fixed, so preordained by lowest common denominator clickbait, valuing above all primal chimpanzee reactions. All we have really is a shouting platform for hyperbole that people try to cram stories into. A marketplace of reflexes more than ideas, not a trading post of experimentation or feeling. Countless artists have endured this dilemma on a much more immediate scale. The most creative people are usually in a world that's not ready for them. It reminds me of a conversation that composer John Zorn had one time talking about his formative years working for this underground downtown New York filmmaker called Jack Smith.
The reason, this doesn't sound very remarkable yet. It's a little remarkable, but it's like the New York Underground, well, this is not so unusual. But what was really unusual, and what I waited when I was helping him with The Secret of Rented Island, was what would happen when nobody showed up? What happened when nobody showed up was he did exactly what he did when there were people there. He went through the entire show with no one in the audience.
Amazing.
This is amazing.
This is amazing.
This is amazing. This is amazing. And this, this was who he was. This is what he did. It was very unique. It was very challenging. It turned a lot of ideas on their heads. He lived it. He was this show. He was this art.
He regularly asserted his own failure. He relished it. The book written about Jack Smith posthumously was even called Glorious Catastrophe. Jack Smith was openly copied by Andy Warhol and many other contemporaries. Meanwhile, Jack Smith languished in obscurity. I thought of this unconscious, unrelenting instinct to blindly forge ahead in spite of it all when the airplane that I was renting, the only plane that I could actually take on trips or do anything worthwhile in, was destroyed mercilessly in early March. I happened to be at home and on the computer and on the actual airplane scheduling system when I noticed that it was suddenly changed to in maintenance status for the next several months. I was curious, not necessarily thinking about the storm, but wondering why the maintenance status had changed. I texted the flight school owner that managed the rental for the owner and asked him what was up with the plane. He replied with one word, and I just shuddered. Totaled. Gradient winds snapped its tie downs, turned the plane upward and over, and smashed it upside down on its head. The airplane's fate, similar to when my older brother would pile drive me after watching wrestling in our basement in the 1970s. Ric Flair's influence on children in playrooms in that time nearly had me paralyzed by the time I was 8. I felt as unmoored as this airplane. What to do now? Everything was upside down. Over the next few weeks, I began looking for a partnership in my area. These partnerships are fleeting and hard to find, especially with the right plane and the right people. I saw an available plane partnership share available, and it was the perfect scenario. The perfect airplane for my mission and experience, a share price within the bounds of possibility, though anything is a stretch, of course, to be honest. I met the partners, really liked them, and had total confidence in the airplane and how they'd been taking care of it. It lives an hour away in a hangar, safe from gradient winds, which is incredibly fortuitous. You can't find a hangar anywhere around the Nashville area, so this was a big find. So I bought an airplane. Well, part of an airplane, but it is as much mine as it is to anyone else, I suppose. So here she is. November 5116 Lima, nicknamed Lucy after Lucille Ball. Makes sense being from the 1960s and donned in red, so I think it works. A 1967 Piper Cherokee 180, though it might as well be a 1968. In 1968, Piper introduced the Piper panel with the throttle quadrant, moving away from the throttle pulls and such, and added the third window. Lucy, like Lucille Ball, was ahead of her time. She was made in November of 1967, so had already adopted the traits that became so iconic for every Piper from 68 forward. For plane nerds, I'll also say that it's a Cherokee 180 Delta model, and it's a low total time on the airframe, plenty of engine hours to go, has dual G5s, a Garmin 530 WAS, and will soon have an autopilot. I finally have the machine for getting my instrument rating and taking the mega adventure trips that I've dreamt of taking. I flew 33 hours in Lucy in 30 days. We hit East Tennessee, North Carolina, Alabama, Kentucky, Missouri, and this is just the beginning. Now I can learn the nuances of an airplane that I know I'll have for a while. Now I can leave some things in the airplane or in the hangar. Now I can feel what it is to fly my own airplane. I would not be in this place were it not for all the great people in the aviation community and those who do support my creative work, whether through Patreon, sharing pieces that I've made, or just being a positive force. So I thank you all. I have a lot to learn and a lot to do. If I have any final thought, it would be just to say, keep on doing whatever you're doing. Don't do anything other than what you want, and insist on positive outcomes. Make them happen with everything you've got. You wonder how things like this come together. How to know when it's the right time to make such a big decision to buy an airplane. This photo is the only photo I have of my father holding me as an infant. Notice the plane he's taking us up in, here in 1972. Looks really familiar.